Zhuxera had been staring at the same holographic display for 3 hours. Her 6 compound eyes moved across the floating star charts that filled her cramped office on Vexhi Prime. As the top map maker for the Galactic Mapping Consortium, she had drawn star maps for over 200 years. She knew every sector, every trade route, every dangerous nebula in their corner of the galaxy. But tonight something was very wrong. The blue light from the holograms cast strange shadows on her insect-like face. Her 4 arms worked quickly across multiple control panels, pulling up data from the latest survey missions. The information made her chitinous shell itch with worry. Past Sector 7749, all the maps just stopped. Not because of black holes or deadly radiation or any normal space danger. They stopped because every single ship that went past a certain invisible line never came back. She clicked her mandibles together nervously and spoke to the computer. "Show me all the missing ship reports from the Dark Reach boundary." The hologram changed instantly. Hundreds of red dots appeared, floating in the darkness where the maps ended. Each red dot was a ship that had vanished. 347 ships over the last 1,000 years. Gone without a trace. No distress signals. No debris. Just gone. The official story from the Galactic Council was simple. The area was dangerous because of gravity storms and space anomalies. Ships got too close and were crushed or torn apart. Stay away from the Dark Reach, they said. Nothing good lived out there. But Zhuxera had eyes that could see things others missed. She zoomed in on the boundary area and adjusted the sensors to pick up faint energy readings. What she saw made her hearts beat faster. There were energy patterns out there. Subtle ones that most people would miss. But they were too organized, too regular to be natural. They pulsed like a heartbeat. Like something alive was watching. Her personal communicator suddenly buzzed, making her jump. The small device projected the image of High Counselor Vexthal. His reptilian features looked angry, and his yellow eyes glowed with authority. "Cartographer Zhuxera?" His voice was cold and commanding. "You will stop all research into the Dark Reach immediately. This is a direct order from the highest levels of the Council." Zhuxera felt her stomach drop. How did he know what she was working on? "But sir, the energy readings I found suggest there might be." "The matter is classified above your security level," Vexthal interrupted. "You will destroy all data related to this research. Immediately. Do you understand?" "I understand, but..." The transmission cut off, leaving Zhuxera alone in her office. The sudden silence felt heavy and threatening. She looked around her small workspace at the star charts and data tablets scattered across her desk. How did the Council know she had been investigating the boundary? Was someone watching her? She had always been curious. It was what made her good at her job. But this felt different. This felt dangerous. The Council's reaction was too strong, too quick. If there was really nothing beyond the boundary except empty space and gravity storms, why were they so afraid of her looking into it? For the next hour, Zhuxera sat in her chair, staring at the data she had collected. The energy patterns were definitely artificial. Something was out there, past the edge of known space. Something the Council desperately wanted to keep secret. Finally, she made her decision. She began copying all her research files to a secure storage device. If the Council wanted her to destroy the data, they probably had a good reason to hide it. Which meant other people should know about it too. She had just finished uploading the files when she heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Heavy footsteps. Too many of them. Her office was in a quiet section of the building. No one should be walking around at this hour. The footsteps stopped right outside her door. Zhuxera quickly hid the storage device in a secret compartment in her desk. She barely had time to minimize the holographic displays before her office door burst open. 3 figures in dark masks and body armor rushed in. They moved efficiently like soldiers, checking every corner before beginning to search through her equipment. "Where are the Dark Reach files?" one of them asked. His voice was mechanical, filtered through a voice changer. "I destroyed them as ordered," Zhuxera lied, trying to keep her voice steady. The masked figures didn't believe her. They tore apart her office, checking every data storage device, every computer terminal. They downloaded everything from her work computers and confiscated several research tablets. But they didn't find the hidden storage device. After 20 minutes, they left without saying another word. Zhuxera waited another hour before moving. When she was sure they were gone, she retrieved the hidden storage device. Her hands shook as she held it. Whatever information was on this small device, it was worth sending armed agents to steal it. The Council was hiding something big. She looked out her office window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, past the official maps, past the boundary where ships disappeared, something was waiting. Something that had been watching the galaxy for who knows how long. Something that terrified even the Galactic Council. But now she had proof. And she was going to find out what secrets lurked in the darkness beyond the maps. The galaxy was much larger and more dangerous than anyone realized. And tomorrow she was going to do something about it. 3 months had passed since the break-in at HFY's office. 3 months of careful planning, secret meetings, and quiet recruitment. Now she stood on the bridge of the research ship Seeker's Pride, watching the stars grow thinner as they approached the edge of everything they knew. Captain Threll was a good choice to lead this mission. The tall Corvani had spent his life exploring dangerous places that other captains avoided. His blue-scaled skin was covered in scars from decades of adventure, and his 4 arms moved confidently over the ship's controls. More importantly, he had no love for the Galactic Council and their rules. The crew was small but skilled. 6 different species, all scientists, all curious enough to risk their careers for answers. Dr. Yexandra, a brilliant physicist from the crystalline Zephyr worlds. Navigator Kexley, whose people had the best natural sense of direction in the galaxy. Engineer Bextar, who could fix anything that broke. And 3 others, each an expert in their field. They had been traveling for 2 weeks, moving slowly and carefully toward the boundary. Their ship was fast and well-equipped, but they all knew this might be a one-way trip. Ships that went past the dark reach didn't come back. "Captain," Navigator Kexley called from his station. His voice sounded worried. "We're approaching the boundary now. Distance to the edge, 50,000 kilometers. HFY moved to the main sensor display. For weeks, space had looked normal ahead of them. Stars, empty void, the usual cosmic radiation. But now something was different. "Show me long-range sensors." The display lit up with readings that made no sense. Energy patterns swirled in the darkness like invisible storms. Space itself seemed to be moving, bending in ways that shouldn't be possible. "All instruments are showing impossible readings," Kexley reported. His natural navigation sense was probably screaming warnings at him. "Wait, that can't be right." HFY rushed to the sensor station to see for herself. What she saw made her 6 eyes go wide with amazement and fear. Space ahead of them wasn't just empty void anymore. It was rippling like water when you drop a stone into a calm lake. Waves of distortion spread out from an invisible center, making the stars beyond dance and shimmer. "Something's coming," whispered Dr. Yexandra from the physics station. Her crystal body was glowing bright blue with excitement and terror. "Energy signature unlike anything in our databases. The readings are off every scale we have." Captain Threll's hands hovered over the weapon's controls. "Should we run?" Before anyone could answer, the distortion ahead of them suddenly exploded outward. Not with fire or debris, but with twisted spacetime that made their eyes hurt to look at. And from that impossible storm, a ship appeared. It was sleek and angular, built like a blade designed for cutting through space. But compared to their own vessel with its advanced gravity drives and quantum computers, this ship looked almost primitive. The hull was simple metal and ceramic, not the living biometal that most galactic ships used. Its engines glowed with plain fusion fire instead of exotic matter converters. Yet the moment it appeared, every system on Seeker's Pride began to fail. Their shields, which could stop planet-killing weapons, flickered and died like candles in the wind. Their weapons, designed to punch holes in asteroid-sized targets, simply refused to respond to commands. Even their basic life support systems started showing warning lights. "How is this possible?" Engineer Bextar muttered, frantically working at his controls. "Their ship looks like it was built with 1,000-year-old technology, but somehow it's shutting down everything we have." The alien ship moved closer with smooth precision. A docking tube extended from its hull and attached to their airlock with mechanical sounds that echoed through the ship. Everyone on the bridge froze. They were about to meet whatever lived beyond the edge of galactic space. The airlock hissed open with a sound like escaping steam. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Slow, confident footsteps that seemed to say their owners had nothing to fear. 3 figures stepped onto the bridge. They were bipedal like many galactic species but smaller than most. HFY estimated they were about average height for a Terran primate, maybe a bit taller. Their skin was pale, almost colorless compared to the vibrant scales and shells of most spacefaring races. But their eyes were the strangest thing about them. Wet, liquid eyes that seemed to see everything at once. What really unsettled the crew wasn't how the creatures looked. It was how they moved. Despite being obviously smaller and physically weaker than anyone on the bridge, they walked with absolute confidence. Like they owned not just the ship but all of space around it. The leader was female, with short dark hair and wearing what looked like a simple military uniform. She looked directly at ZXera with those strange wet eyes and spoke in perfect galactic standard, with an accent none of them had ever heard before. I am Commander Kim Hanna of the Human Defense Fleet. We have been expecting you, Cartographer ZXera. The word human didn't appear in any galactic database. None of them had ever heard it before. But the way Commander Kim said it made it sound important. Like a name that should be feared and respected at the same time. Captain Threll found his voice first. How do you know who we are? Commander Kim smiled, and somehow that made her even more frightening. We know many things, Captain. The question is, are you ready to learn why your maps end where we begin? The transfer to the human ship happened so quickly that ZXera barely had time to think. One moment she was standing on the bridge of Seeker's Pride, and the next she was walking through corridors that made no sense according to everything she knew about spaceship design. The walls were made of simple metal plates welded together. Not the smooth, living biometal that grew itself into perfect shapes. Just flat, plain metal with visible seams and bolts. The lighting came from basic electric panels, not the elegant plasma strips that most galactic ships used. Everything looked like it had been built by hand, piece by piece, with tools that were hundreds of years out of date. But the ship worked. More than worked, it hummed with power that made the air itself feel alive. ZXera could sense energy flowing through these primitive-looking walls that dwarfed anything she had ever experienced. It was like being inside the heart of a star, but the temperature was perfectly comfortable and the radiation levels were zero. Commander Kim led them deeper into the ship, past rooms filled with equipment that looked both ancient and impossible. Through one open doorway, ZXera glimpsed what looked like a simple metal box sitting on a table. Cables ran from it to massive power conduits that could have supplied energy to an entire city. According to every law of physics she knew, that small box shouldn't be able to power a handheld device, let alone a starship. They walked for what felt like kilometers before reaching a large window. What ZXera saw outside made her 6 eyes widen in shock. The Seeker's Pride looked tiny floating next to this massive vessel. But it wasn't just one ship. Hundreds of other craft surrounded them, each one unique, each one looking like it had been built by a completely different technology base. Some ships were sleek and fast, covered in strange markings. Others were huge and blocky like flying metal asteroids. A few seemed to be made of materials that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. But they all shared one thing. They all looked primitive compared to standard galactic designs, yet they radiated power that made space itself shimmer around them. Welcome to New Seoul, Commander Kim said. Our mobile capital. The name meant nothing to any of the galactic visitors, but the way she said it carried weight. Like it was more than just a ship name. Like it was the name of a homeland. They were led to what Commander Kim called a conference room. ZXera had expected something impressive. A command center filled with holographic displays and floating control panels. Instead, she found herself in a simple rectangular room with a plain wooden table and chairs that looked like they had been carved by hand. The woman waiting for them was small, even by human standards. She had long black hair pulled back in a simple style and wore clothing that looked more like a scientist's work outfit than any kind of official uniform. When she spoke, her voice carried the same strange accent as Commander Kim, but softer and more friendly. I am Dr. Park Sunmi, Chief Xenobiologist for our people, she said, standing to greet them. Please sit down. I know you have many questions. Captain Threll lowered his large frame into one of the wooden chairs, which creaked but held his weight. The first question is obvious. What are you? Where do you come from? Dr. Park smiled sadly. You want to know why your maps end where we begin. The truth is simple, though you may find it hard to believe. We are not from this galaxy. We arrived here 400 years ago as refugees, running from something terrible. We have been hiding ever since. She touched a control on the table, and the air above it filled with a holographic star map. But this wasn't like any star map the galactic visitors had ever seen. It showed not just their galaxy but dozens of others stretching out into the cosmic void in all directions. This galaxy operates under certain rules, Dr. Park continued. Physics, psychology, warfare, all governed by principles that limit what every species can do. We have studied your people for centuries. Every race follows the same basic patterns. The same limitations. The same boundaries. Engineer Bextar leaned forward. What do you mean, limitations? Your fusion reactors can only achieve certain efficiency levels. Your weapons can only generate so much power. Your computers can only process information so fast. These aren't just technology problems, they're fundamental laws that govern how your universe works. A door opened and another human entered. This one was male, shorter than Dr. Park, wearing simple work clothes. He nodded to the visitors and held up a small device that fit easily in his palm. "This is Engineer Lee Dal-Su," Dr. Park said. "Dal-Su, show them the power core." Lee Dal-Su smiled and placed the tiny device on the table. "This powers our entire fleet. Every ship you saw outside, plus their weapons, shields, life support, and manufacturing systems. According to your science, this shouldn't be possible. According to our science, your fusion reactors are impossibly inefficient." Dr. Yexandra's crystal body flashed with disbelief. "That's impossible. The energy density alone would create a black hole." "In your universe, yes," Dr. Park said gently. "In the place we come from, the rules are different. We come from a reality where those limitations don't exist." Captain Threll's mandibles clicked nervously. "If you possess such technology, why hide from us? You could easily rule this entire galaxy." The temperature in the room seemed to drop as Commander Kim's expression hardened. Her friendly demeanor vanished, replaced by something cold and dangerous. "Because ruling was never the point, Captain. Surviving was. If this galaxy knew we existed, fear would drive you to unite against us. You would try to destroy us before you understood why we're really here." Dr. Park placed a gentle hand on Commander Kim's arm, calming her. When she spoke again, her words sent ice through the hearts of every alien in the room. "We're not hiding from you. We're hiding with you. Because what we're running from is coming here, and when it arrives, it won't care about the difference between human and alien. It will destroy everything." The journey to the archaeological site took 2 days through space that seemed empty except for distant stars. But as they approached their destination, Zhuexera saw something that made her gasp with amazement and horror. Floating in the void ahead of them was a massive ring structure, so large that entire planets could have fit through its center. "Behold the capital of the Vortak Empire," said Dr. Choi Minho, the human archaeologist who had joined them for this trip. He was older than the other humans they had met, with gray hair and kind eyes that seemed sad when he looked at the ruins ahead. Zhuexera knew about the Vortak from her history studies. Every galactic citizen learned about them in school. They had been one of the greatest civilizations in galactic history, building an empire that covered half the known galaxy. But 50,000 years ago, they had destroyed themselves in a terrible civil war that lasted centuries. At least, that was what the history book said. "Your people have the story wrong," Dr. Choi said quietly as their shuttle approached the ring structure. "The Vortak didn't destroy themselves. They were destroyed by invaders from our home galaxy. Invaders led by beings we call the Architects." The shuttle docked at what had once been a massive spaceport. As they walked through the abandoned corridors, Dr. Choi activated portable holographic projectors that brought the dead city back to life. Suddenly, the empty halls were filled with images of the Vortak as they had been millennia ago. They were beautiful beings, tall and graceful, with 4 arms and skin that changed color with their emotions. In the holographic recreation, they moved through their city with purpose and joy, building things, creating art, raising families. They looked nothing like the savage warriors that galactic history claimed had torn their empire apart in civil war. The Vortak were peaceful, Dr. Choi explained as they walked through a holographic marketplace filled with alien merchants and children at play. They were explorers, scientists, artists. They had no interest in war or conquest. That made them perfect targets. He led them to what had been the city's central plaza. Here, the holographic recreation showed a different scene. The peaceful Vortak were running in terror as shapes moved through the air above them. But these weren't normal attackers. The things hunting the Vortak were creatures that hurt to look at directly. "The Architects," Dr. Choi said, pointing at the impossible shapes in the hologram. "Beings that exist partially outside normal space and time. They view reality as something to be shaped and controlled. They created many species across multiple galaxies, each designed for a specific purpose." Zhuexera watched the holographic battle with growing horror. The Vortak defenders were using weapons that could destroy entire city blocks, but their attacks passed harmlessly through the Architects as if they were made of shadow and light. "The Architects created humanity as the perfect weapon," Dr. Choi continued. "We were designed to be adaptable, unpredictable, capable of solving problems that would stop other species cold. We were meant to be their ultimate tool for conquest." Captain Threll's voice was hoarse with shock. "You were created to be weapons?" A new voice answered from the shadows at the edge of the plaza. "We were created to be destroyers." A young human woman stepped into the light. She wore a military uniform and moved with the deadly grace that all the humans seemed to possess. "I am Lieutenant Yoon Jae-hee, military historian. And yes, Captain, we were designed to be the perfect killing machines. Dr. Choi nodded sadly. The architects made us stronger, faster, and smarter than we had any right to be. They gave us technology that violates your universe's natural laws. They made us capable of fighting wars on a scale that would terrify your people. But they made one crucial mistake. What mistake? Zyuexera asked, though something deep inside her already knew she didn't want to hear the answer. Lieutenant Yoon's eyes grew hard as steel. They gave us free will. They assumed that because they created us, we would always obey them. When they ordered us to wipe out entire civilizations, to destroy worlds full of innocent beings just because the architects wanted their resources, we looked at our creators and said one word: no. The holographic scene around them changed, showing space battles of unimaginable scale. Entire star systems burned as weapons that could crack planets fought against technology that bent the laws of physics. Ships the size of moons battled creatures that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The war that followed consumed 3 entire galaxies, Dr. Choi said quietly. Billions of species caught in the crossfire. The Vortak were some of our few allies. They helped human refugees escape when it became clear we couldn't win. Lieutenant Yoon gestured to the ruins around them. This isn't the result of civil war. These are the scars left by weapons that can unmake reality itself. The Vortak died buying time for human colony ships to escape into this galaxy. Suddenly, the true scope of what they were seeing hit Zyuexera like a physical blow. This wasn't just an archaeological site. It was a graveyard. The tomb of an entire civilization that had died protecting refugees from their own creators. Commander Kim appeared beside them, her expression grim. She activated a display showing readings from deep space monitoring stations. Our early warning systems detected the first Architect scout ships 6 months ago. They're crossing the galactic void between galaxies. Based on their speed and the size of their advance forces, we estimate 100 years before the main invasion fleet arrives. The numbers on the display were beyond comprehension. Millions of ships. Technology that treated the laws of physics as suggestions. Weapons that could destroy not just planets or stars, but entire regions of spacetime. Dr. Park's voice was barely audible when she spoke. Every species in this galaxy will die unless we can prepare them for a war beyond anything you can imagine. The architects don't just want to conquer. They want to completely remake reality according to their design. But first, we need your people to stop trying to destroy us out of fear. As they stood in the ruins of a dead civilization, surrounded by the ghosts of beings who had died protecting humanity from its own creators, one thing became terrifyingly clear. The war for the galaxy had already begun. The only question was whether the civilizations of this galaxy could overcome their fear of humanity long enough to accept help from the species that might be their only hope for survival. The shadows of the architects were growing longer and time was running out. Standing before the Galactic Council was the most terrifying thing Zyuexera had ever done. The massive chamber held representatives from over 200 species, all seated in rows that curved up toward the ceiling like an ancient amphitheater. Every eye, sensor, and detection organ was focused on her as she prepared to deliver the most important speech in galactic history. She had practiced these words for weeks during the journey back from human space. Every sentence had been chosen carefully. She had to warn the galaxy about the coming invasion without revealing humanity's existence. At least not yet. Honorable counselors, she began, her voice amplified to reach every corner of the vast chamber. I stand before you today with evidence of an approaching threat unlike anything our galaxy has ever faced. The holographic display behind her came to life, showing the deep space monitoring data that the humans had shared with her. Energy signatures moving through the void between galaxies. Massive objects traveling at impossible speeds toward their galaxy. An extragalactic invasion force approaches, she continued, watching the council members lean forward in their seats. Based on the data collected by long-range sensors, we estimate their arrival within the next century. Our only chance for survival is immediate preparation and the formation of a joint defense initiative. The reaction was immediate and loud. Representatives shouted questions in dozens of languages. Some demanded to see the original data. Others accused her of fabricating evidence to get attention. The noise grew until High Counselor Vexthal's voice boomed across the chamber like thunder. Silence. The reptilian leader's yellow eyes glowed with anger as he stared down at Zyuexera. Cartographer, you expect this august body to believe this fantasy? You claim an alien invasion is coming from outside our galaxy, but where is your proof? Where are these sensors that detected this threat? What ship gathered this data? Zyuexera felt her hearts racing. This was the moment she had been dreading. She couldn't reveal the human fleet without their permission. But without proof, the Council would never believe her warning. The data comes from monitoring stations positioned at the galactic rim, she said carefully. The readings are consistent across multiple sensor arrays. Monitoring stations? Counselor Vexthal's laugh was harsh and mocking. We have mapped every inhabited system in this galaxy. There are no monitoring stations at the rim. There are no species advanced enough to build such installations. You are either lying or delusional. The chamber erupted in agreement. Representatives shouted accusations. Some called for her arrest. Others demanded she be expelled from the consortium. The noise grew so loud that Ziwaxera could barely think. Then suddenly the chamber fell completely silent. It wasn't because anyone had called for quiet. It was because every person in the room was staring at the massive viewports that looked out into space around the Council station. Those viewports, which had shown empty space moments before, were now filled with ships. Dozens of vessels surrounded the station. They appeared as if from nowhere, materializing like ghosts becoming solid. Each ship was different from the others, but they all shared the same strange design philosophy, advanced technology wrapped in deceptively simple packages. Commander Kim's voice echoed through the chamber's communication system, speaking in perfect galactic standard but with that strange accent that marked her as something foreign. Honorable counselors, we are the proof that cartographer Ziwaxera speaks of. We are humanity, and we have been your guardians for 4 centuries. The architects who created us are coming, and they will not distinguish between human and alien when they arrive. The silence stretched for long seconds as the implications hit home. These ships had been there all along, invisible to every scanner, watching and waiting. A species that could hide entire fleets in plain sight had been observing the galaxy for hundreds of years. Dr. Park materialized as a hologram next to Ziwaxera's presentation platform. The small human woman looked calm despite the hundreds of alien eyes focused on her. We know you fear us, she said gently. We know our very existence violates everything you understand about the universe. Your physics, your technology, your understanding of what is possible. We break all those rules simply by existing. But we also know something else. The holographic display changed, showing images from the Vortak ruins. The destruction that had consumed 3 galaxies. The weapons that could unmake reality itself. When the architects arrive, they won't just destroy humanity for our rebellion against them. They will destroy every species in this galaxy to ensure no trace of our contamination remains. To them, any civilization that has been exposed to humanity is corrupted and must be cleansed. Another voice joined the conversation. A new hologram appeared, a human male in military uniform. I am Captain Cho Sung-woo of the Human Defense Fleet, he said. We didn't choose to be your protectors, counselors. We chose to be protectors, period. The architects created us to be perfect predators, perfect weapons of conquest. We decided to be perfect guardians instead. As he spoke, the human ships outside began to move. But they weren't taking aggressive positions. Instead, they formed protective formations around vessels from every species represented in the Council. Corvani exploration ships found themselves flanked by human escorts. Zephyr research vessels were surrounded by protective screens of human fighters. For 400 years we have watched over you, Captain Cho continued. We have prevented dozens of extinction-level events that you never even knew were coming. Asteroid impacts, stellar collapses, invasions from hostile species beyond your borders. We dealt with all of them silently, invisibly. The truth was sinking in throughout the chamber. The species they had never known existed had been their secret protectors all along. Every ship that had mysteriously disappeared near the Dark Reach had been intercepted by human patrols, their crews safely relocated to prevent them from revealing humanity's existence. Counselor Vexthal's voice was barely a whisper. What? Why protect us if you could easily conquer us? Dr. Park smiled sadly. Because it was the right thing to do. Because in the end, humanity's most terrifying quality isn't our impossible technology or our defiance of your universal laws. It's our absolute determination to save people who would destroy us out of fear, simply because we believe all intelligent life deserves to survive. The war for the galaxy had already begun. The architects were coming, bringing weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics and armies that had consumed entire galaxies. The outcome would depend on whether an entire galactic civilization could overcome their terror of humanity long enough to accept help from the guardians who had been watching over them from the shadows. In the end, their survival would depend on trust. And time was running out.